super fantastic, sparkling evening. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 2021. Oh, that was a good year. We had a lot of fun that year. Tonight we're talking about the black sheep of the family, uncovering scandals and secrets in genealogy. Yeah, I'm doing that thing with the, oh no, it's not doing that. It's just sticking up. It's got a mind of its own tonight. Anyway, enough of that here. Tonight we're looking at the black sheep of the family, those little family secrets that have been tucked away. But guess what? They're all going to come out, and there's ways that we can handle it, and ways that we can look for it and find it. And then there's ways that you have to be cautious about how you relay that information to the rest of the family as well. So where do we start? Well, first of all, we've got to look for clues in family story. I have a huge black sheep thing. It was my great uncle. He was my great grandmother's half brother. Oh yes, he was a tyrant. He really was. There is a book called The Top 10 Dangerous Men of Australia with a question mark, and each person in that book has a chapter. And my great granduncle is in there with his own chapter. And not only that, I actually have some copies of documents that have been scanned in that I have discovered in my research that back up a lot of what's in that chapter, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, so how do we find out this information? And I've got another black sheep as well, but that one's a very sensitive one, so we're not going to talk about that one. Usually listen for whispers. Are there old family rumors about an outlaw, a runaway, a hidden scandal, a tyrant, somebody with a criminal record? Look for missing pieces, a missing census record, unexplained name changes, sudden disappearance could indicate something unusual. Review family photos and heirlooms, military medals, legal documents, or old letters that might hold hidden clues. If an ancestor vanished, check if they changed their name, moved away, or had a criminal past. So where can we find some of these records? Well, the so-called black sheep often had legal trouble, whether it was a minor offense or major crimes. So we can do search in places like prison and inmate records that are available in national and state archives. You've got court and trial records, usually located at the local courthouses, often keep the files there. They may get moved over to state archives in some states, but usually you find them in the courthouse. Newspapers report crime reports. Check newspapers.com or chronicling America for arrest reports and trials. Pardon and parole records. Some criminals will later pardon, which can reveal new details. Where do you find them online? Ancestry.com has prison and court records. Fold3.com, it's Fold, F-O-L-D, the number 3.com, has military-related court cases and dishonorable discharges. If you are a member of Ancestry, where you've got one of the higher level membership levels where it's all the whoopee-doo bells and whistles one, Fold3 is included with that, along with newspapers.com. Your subscription for that is covered with your... is it called an all-access pass? I'm trying to remember what it is that I have. Whatever it is that I have, it has Fold3 and newspapers.com as well. State archives and local historical societies have some digitized old police records. Look for alternative spellings. Criminal records often had errors in the names. Yes, so you can find those in those sorts of places as well. I haven't come across any dishonorably discharged people on Fold3, though. All the people I've been looking for on Fold3 were all honorably discharged or medically discharged. I've not seen a dishonorable discharge yet. Well, it'll be interesting to find one and see what they got dishonorably discharged for. That'll be an interesting story. I'll tell that one another day when I find some. But right now, all the searching we've been done, there is no dishonorable discharges in any of the searching that's been done. Finding disappearing ancestors and name changes. Some ancestors reinvented themselves by altering their identity. And in my own family tree, looking for DNA matches, we have come across this a lot with, I had one cousin. I can't remember if she was a second or a third cousin. I think she was somewhere around second, third, or fourth, somewhere around that area. And she was telling me about her father and how he had all these different names. But we knew through the DNA that we were matched. That we're blood related through the DNA. That's how we found that. That's how we found that piece. But it's trying to figure out what name he was using. And we found records that have his different names. And this was because she listened and paid attention, that she heard that he got married under this name. He got married under her mother. He changed his last name to be the same as her mother's maiden name and got married under that name. And we found those marriage records. And then he changed it to something else and we found those marriage records. Yes, this guy got married more than once. We never found any divorce records. Yes, but we always found that he had reinvented himself. So ways you can track them down is check for alternate spellings and nicknames. Census takers and clerks often recorded names phonetically, especially if the person who was providing the information did not know how to read and write. So they couldn't ask them how to spell the name, so they just had to record them phonetically. Compare census records over time. Did they suddenly appear with a different last name? And yes, this has been showing up in the household, like in their parents' household. You've suddenly got a person with the same first name but a different last name who is a guy. And you're like, oh, and he's listed there as the son of the head of the house. And you're like, huh. And then you look at his birth date and you start looking at other records and things like that, and you find out that he had changed his name and that he was there as his new name. So you can find them on census records, and that has happened as well. Look for immigration records. Many people moved to a new state or country to escape a past. This was common with women who got divorced. For some reason, back in the day, back in the 1800s, even if it was the husband who had cheated on the woman was looked down for if she was a divorcee because it was her fault. It didn't matter that he had had an affair that had resulted in their marriage dissolving. They're supposed to stay married no matter what. So obviously the woman was not doing something correct in their marriage for him to wander. Yes. And I can hear a lot of people going, oh, but it was his fault. He's the one that did. I totally agree. I am not going to go there with anything. So a lot of times when a woman moved, she may have moved within the same state to a different town, or she may have moved to a completely different state, even moved across country or from one end of the country to the other, and listed herself as a widow to get away from that stigma of being a divorcee. Now, in some cases, somewhere along the way, somebody she knows from back wherever she disappeared from might meet up with her, run into her in a street in some town somewhere. It has happened. And then the whole story comes out. So now she has to move again and then reinvent herself again. So look for those. Women often change their last names multiple times, especially if they got remarried. So a woman has her maiden name. She gets married. She changes to her husband's name. He passes away. She gets married again, or they divorce. She moves. She changes her name to be a widow. She ends up getting married again. And then something happens with that marriage. He may have passed away again, so she goes and gets married to somebody else. It can happen. So oftentimes when you are looking for women, especially if their last names may have changed, if you have her maiden name, look for who she got married to. And it could be that she switched back to her maiden name after a husband died or after she got divorced, and listed herself as a widow. So look under the maiden name. If you can't find under the maiden name, look for the first marriage name that you know of. So say she was a Smith and married a Jones, so she now became a Jones. Look under Jones for her name. You may find her second marriage that way. Oftentimes you will find, reading obituaries, you will find in there that the husband listed, if he has survived, is not the same one that she first married. So now you've got a place that you can start and you can work backwards. So look for the husband's name and then look for his marriage records. Who did he get married to? There's a woman there with the same last name, with the same first name as Mrs. Jones. So who was she? Was that the person beforehand? And then you can start following that chain back and find out that was the one. And now you can move forward with that one. So check for remarriages. DNA testing. If records don't match up, DNA tests will confirm biological connections. Yes. They won't tell you how you are related. They will tell you you are blood related, and that's it. If someone disappears from census records, check city directories, land records, and obituaries, because quite often they will show up in those. Now, back in the 1800s through to the early 1900s, women were often listed with their husband's name in directory. So it could have underneath Smith, you could have John Smith, and then in parentheses will be his wife's name, her first name. If the husband passes, she would then be listed in there under Smith, Smith, comma Jane, and then in parentheses it'll have widow of Henry or widow of in his first name, but she'll be listed there under the name that she was known as when her husband was alive. So have a look for those. Researching bootleggers, outlaws, and rebels. Oh, I tell you, this is what gets me going. I love finding all this stuff. Some ancestors were involved in illegal trades, especially during times like Prohibition. Best places to look: national newspaper archives. Many crimes were reported in small town newspapers. Federal and state prohibition records. Bootleggers were often fined or arrested. Land and tax records. Some outlaws owned large properties that changed hands suddenly. FBI and law enforcement records. Some gangster-related records are now public. If your ancestor was involved in bootlegging or smuggling, check for confiscated property in tax records. I might have to go look. Although I don't have anybody to look up. I don't have anybody to go look up, but it'd be cool going and reading some of the records just to read them. You never know what you'll find in there. But yeah, check those out. Newspaper archives, you've got newspapers.com, you've got newspaperarchives.com, you've got, if you're in New Zealand, you've got pastpapers.co.nz, I think it is. Might be a gov in there. Might be a .gov.nz. But Past Papers is the name of the one that's in New Zealand for all the New Zealand newspapers. Let's see, there's GeneNet Bank, I think it's called, that has newspapers in it as well. There's a whole bunch of them out there that you can find. Most of them, if not all of them, have a membership that you do need to pay. So have a look for those. But the fact that some gangster-related records are now public, yeah, I'm kind of curious to go and read some of those. Only from the perspective of there is a story I am in the process of writing that takes place in Ketchikan during Prohibition. So having if there are some stories from that time that are now released, I would love to go back and read them just to get the historical context, to make sure that when I'm writing about it in my book, I get it historically correct. Okay, so that's all I'm saying on that one. So yes, I would like to go read those. The next one is uncovering secrets in mental institutions and asylums. In past centuries, some ancestors were institutionalized for conditions that are now well understood. You've got census records. Some list inmates at asylums. Yes, they also list inmates in prisons. So you have to look to see where were they held, so you know whether they were a patient or whether they were a prisoner. State mental hospital archives. Some states have digitized admission records. I have seen some of those. I have found ancestors for some clients on some of those. Death certificates. The place of death may list a hospital or an institution. Local newspapers. Families sometimes posted notices about relatives in asylums. Yeah, they did. I tell you, newspapers back in the day were like huge gossip things. If somebody got admitted to hospital for whatever reason, it's written up as a newspaper article that so-and-so got admitted to a hospital with this injury, this illness. They're expected to be there for da-da-da days. You will get updates during, if they're meant to be there for a week, you will get updates during the week on how they are doing. Then on the day of release, it'll say that so-and-so was released from hospital today and headed home to, and it will put their address. Yes, so if you want to know about gossip, it's been around for eons. Handling sensitive discoveries. Finding out a family member was a criminal, had multiple identities, or was disowned can be difficult. How to approach it. Stick to the facts. So if you are going to inform the family about this, stick to the facts, verify information before assuming the worst. Always, always, always verify, 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 and even pull out this book to help you verify the information for the proof and everything else. And yeah, so pull this out to verify, to help you verify and prove that the facts you have are correct and for the correct person. So first of all, stick to the facts. Verify information before assuming the worst. Have copies of the records if you're able to. If not, at least have the sources available so that people can go and look up the information. If you can have copies of the records, it would be so much better for everybody if you had copies. Be respectful. Some stories may still affect living relatives. Depending on when it happened in time, there may still be some living relatives who were affected by that when it happened. And because it is still a sensitive topic, you may trigger a living relative. So be respectful. Consider the historical context. What was illegal then may not be today. And this is why I say whenever you're looking at anybody's story, put yourself in their shoes, in their time. And this is why it's important to learn the history of the area, what was going on at the time, what was legal, what was not legal, how was their living conditions, what was it like to be a whatever their profession was. Put yourself into that time in history. And remember, there's no computers, there's no phones. Remember those facts. And that's why it's important to learn about the area and the time period that your ancestors were living there. So you can put things in historical context, because what was legal then may not be so today. Decide what to share. Not all discoveries need to be public. It could be something that you privately share with the person you did the research on. With my clients, they are the only people who get to see the records that we have. The records that we find, they are the only people that get to see them. You will notice when I talk about some of my clients' cases and things, I mention no names. I give you no historical, if there's a historical event involved, I give you nothing on that, except to say that they were involved in a historical event going on at the time. If they encountered a historical figure, a famous historical figure, you don't know who that person is because I don't mention it. So I keep it as broad as I can, unless I have permission from my client to reveal names. I do not reveal names unless I've been told to. So you've got to decide what to share. So not all discoveries need to be public. Share it with that family member who employed you. The person who employed you is like, especially when you're doing DNA testing. Where is it? And this one here, there are the DNA, genetic DNA standards in here that you need to go by, and that includes who you can talk to and who you can't talk to. You can only talk to the person whose results you have tested or the results that you are managing. You cannot talk to any other family member about their results, about that person's results, unless you have the specific written permission from the person whose results you have that you may share it with, and they have to list what people to share it with. Genealogy is about truth. It's also about respect. Tell the full story, not just the scandal. So when you are relating the information, you don't turn around and go, oh, do you know what happened in your family? Oh my gosh. Take the emotion, take it out of there and go, okay, we have some things that we need to discuss. It is a very sensitive topic, but we do have the proof to back this up. This is what we know for certain. And it could be you give them a newspaper article, you give them the prison record, you have the census reports, you have a death certificate, you have all this information that helps back up the facts that you are explaining to them about this person who may have had multiple identities, may have been a criminal, may have been disowned from the family. They're a true black sheep. So you can't turn around and just make things up or put it into a story context. This is one where it's the facts. Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. Who said that one? I don't remember. But all you're telling them is the facts. So your research checklist, have you tried everything? Prison and court records, alternative name searches, military dishonorable discharges, mental institution and asylum records, bootlegging, smuggling, and prohibition files. I can't wait to get into that one. Newspaper crime reports, DNA testing for hidden family connections, And I will tell you with the newspapers, don't just look for the crime reports, look for incidences that happened. There may have been a car crash where your ancestors may have been killed in a car accident or some sort of accident. And people may be named in there, including the black sheep you're looking for. And it could be several editions of newspapers later that the court case comes up, or they give a final report on the incident and their findings and everything else. And that black sheep person wasn't formally charged with anything because of the evidence that was found. It found that they weren't actually at fault. It was just a pure accident. But they became a black sheep of the family and got cast out because, as far as the family goes, despite the evidence, that person was responsible for everything. That person ruined the family's life. That person is responsible. They're out of here. We are disowning them. We're not even putting them in the will or anything. So always look at newspapers when you're looking for incidences as well. At newspapers.com, you can search by name. So see what names come up. And you may find accident reports that way. And you may not find any police reports in there or court records in there because it never got to that point, because they proved that person was innocent of the charges. And the family thinks something completely different. So try researching. So my challenge for you today is to try researching one missing or mysterious ancestor using a new method from this list. If you need help, reach out to us, private message me, and we'll be able to get you some assistance on that. The other cool thing I got to tell you about too, yesterday we launched the Your Family Tree Detective YouTube site. It is really cool. We've got 6 videos up. We've got an intro video that tells you what the site's all about. And then we have 5 short videos. They're like around 20 to 30. I think the longest one might be 35 seconds. So they're like around that half-minute mark. So we've got 5 of those up right now. And we're adding more all the time. Today we got the intro video done and got that up on the YouTube channel. So go check it out. The link is in the description below. We've got it there. It says check out our brand new YouTube, Your Family Tree Detective YouTube channel, and then just click on that link. It will take you straight to the thing, and watch the intro video because it's pretty cool. But there's going to be a lot of information going into that site, lots of hints and tips and things like that. We may even put stuff here on there about the black sheep and searching for the black sheep in the family and finding those scandals and things. But just remember, the black sheep of the family with the scandals and the crimes and everything else is a very sensitive topic. I'm just somebody who just loves that type of stuff, not from a gossip perspective, but from a factual perspective. I don't care what the gossip says. There is some truth to be held in the gossip, but you've got to find the facts. And that's what I go looking for when I'm looking up any of these black sheep of the family. And yes, you find some horrific, there are some horrific stories out there where I'm just sort of like, I can't read any more of this. I totally understand. And I have actually spoken with some people who have been affected by some of these incidences that I've read about. And it just leaves me speechless that they lived through. They may have lived through that. They may have been and have escaped somehow. But there are some horrific stories out there. Be prepared for those. If you're going looking for that black sheep of the family, be prepared that you may find something that's going to turn your stomach and you don't want to do it anymore. Totally get it. Totally understand. At the same time, remember to be very sensitive to the people who you are revealing this information to. If you are working with a client, like I do when I'm working with clients, I always, I let them know there's going to be some stuff that may come up that may have an impact on you mentally, physically. So I prepare them for the worst possible things when we're looking for stuff. I prepare them for the worst situations because that's my job as a genealogist, because all sorts of stuff is going to come up. There may be stuff that they go, oh, if you come across this one, we already know about that, but we'd like to know more information about it. They may even, that could be why they're hiring me, is because they've had this incident in the family. It's affected the family for several generations. They want to get to the truth of this incident to see why is everybody not treating, why did everybody boot this person out? It doesn't seem like it was that bad. And so we go back, we have a look at the historical context of everything. We put it into perspective for them. And then we find out that the person wasn't even charged because they were found innocent. But and as far as the family, as somebody in the family was concerned, that person was as guilty as anything. Despite the fact that they weren't even in the area, they had a solid alibi. The evidence didn't even point to them. It pointed to somebody else. And they actually ended up arresting somebody else for that thing. As far as the family was concerned, that person is out of here. They are guilty. So there's more to that story. There was more to that story that we had to go in and dig out because of the fact that that person had been found innocent and they actually arrested somebody else for that. This family still blamed that person for this incident. So we had to go and dig deeper and try and find out why people in the family were so dead set against this person, even though they were innocent beyond a reasonable doubt. They were innocent beyond a reasonable doubt, especially since they found somebody else who was completely guilty of it and charged them with it. And that person ended up getting a death sentence. So we had to dig deeper, and we found some stuff that was in there. We found some newspaper articles about little petty stuff and things like that. And they were kind of one of those people that just got into trouble for little things. And this was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back when this major thing happened, even though they were innocent of it. They were just sort of like, we're washing our hands of you. We're done with you. That was the last thing, even though they were innocent. So yeah, that was, and so the people who are still affected by this a few generations later were very happy to find out that information and totally understood like all the little things. And it was just a petty thing here and a petty thing there. It wasn't anything major. They didn't really do any time in the prisons. Maybe a week that they were in prison for. They had fines that they had to pay, community service they had to do. There was all sorts of things that we found in there that, man, I'm shitting like, I don't know. That's all my hair on there, not Daffy's. But, we found this, we found their little sentences that went with, that fitted the crimes that they were arrested for. It was all petty stuff. And then this big major thing happened and the family was sort of like, we're done with you. We don't care. Get out of here. And so it was heart-wrenching for that. But the cool part is that this family found the descendants of this black sheep in the family and connected with them. And they're like best buds now. They're at the family reunions. Everybody's cool about everything. So sometimes, and like I said, they knew about this. They didn't have all the details. They just heard rumors about it. So they wanted to dig deeper and find out what was going on. And we were happy to uncover that for them. But I tell you get some hairy, hairy stuff in this thing. There are some reports that I have read where I've got through and I can read pretty gory stuff. I don't read horror. Horror is just something I can't read. But when it comes to criminal reports and stuff, like even watching operations happening on TV and some programs and stuff where they can show you all the blood and gore and everything else, I will sit there, eat my dinner and watch that. No problem at all. But some of these reports that I have read are so gory, I just get to the point where I'm sort of like, I can't deal with this right now. It's something I have to be in the right frame of mind to read. So, so what black sheep do you have in your family and what have you been able to prove about them? It's all about proving, were they actually innocent or were they actually guilty? And like in this one case, the family just disowned this one person, and thankfully the family from today, the descendants from the part that threw this guy out, were able to find living relatives of their, what was he? He was a great uncle to them. Second great uncle, I think it was. They were able to find cousins and connect with those cousins, and the whole story came out between the two of them and the stuff that we had found for them. They were able to go in and say, hey, look, here's the proof of what happened with your great grandfather. We're willing to, and they end up becoming great friends and stay in constant communication. The other side also had documentation. They had the documentation that we weren't able to find, but fitted in with what we had. And then there was some that was duplicated as well. They had some of the information that we had discovered for them. So they were able to collaborate on that point. And between the documentation that this family had and this family had, they were able to get a more of a complete picture. And they still stay in contact today, which is really cool, and get together often. So we were able to help heal a family, which was awesome. That's just so awesome. But, it's just that's one of the joys. Other ones, it's sort of like being, I'm sorry, This is the evidence that we've found. This is what we've found. This is what we've this is the documentation that we have found. We have proven that this documentation is correct. We have also proven that it is this relative in your family tree, and this is who the relative is, and here are the facts. We didn't put it into a story format. It was just the facts, and that's all we gave them. Normally we kind of do a little story thing around it, and yeah, we didn't do any of that this time. It was so sensitive that we could not. All we could do was just give them the facts. There was just, because of the sensitivity of the information and the impact that it had on this family, there was no whitewashing it with a story or anything else. I said, we're just going to give you the facts. We're not going to put any story to it or anything else. We're just going to explain to you what we know through the facts. Here is this police report here. Here is this prison record here. Here is this military record here. Here is, oh, actually, no, we haven't done the discharge one. We just gave them the facts. Here is this, here is this, here is this. And we have confirmed that it is this particular person, and this is how we confirmed it. And we take them on that journey of, this is where we went and looked. This is the information that we found. This is how we verified that it was your ancestor. So yeah, we give them the full report. So with that, who is a black sheep in your family? Who have you gone and researched? Check out some of the ideas that we gave you tonight to go and see if you can find further information about those black sheep in the family. Approach it with caution, and verify. This book will help you with proving it, because I've got some really good stuff in here on how to prove. I tell you, this book, it's just a little book. You can see how thin it is here. It's in the description down below if you're not sure which one it is. It's only got 100 and something. It hasn't even got it's not even 100 pages long. But it has everything in here that you need to help you with research and to help prove something, including citations and stuff. But if you've got evidence, what's the evidence book? The evidence book. Evidence Explained. If you've got that book, that tells you how to source, how to cite anything, from books to stuff that's online, to physical product, to physical items that are heirlooms, how to source that, how to cite those sources as well, like where you found it, all of that sort of thing. It's got everything in there. And the book is like about this thick, and it's about this tall. It's like an 8 by 11 page, and it's about that thick, 1.5 inches thick. But it's got everything in there, how to source, how to cite anything in your sources. So go out, have fun, see what you can find. If you have any stumbling blocks, just private message us, and we'll be more than happy to assist you with that. Oh, and don't forget to check out our new YouTube channel. And if you want to have a fun couple of days next week, on Wednesday and Thursday next week, come join us at Networking Riches. If you use this QR code up here, you get to come free as my guest. And it's just a fun couple of days learning how to network, how to make networking profitable, how to go to a networking event with intentions set as to who you want to talk to and what you want to accomplish while you're at a networking event. I tell you, it makes a huge difference from walking up to somebody and going, hi, here's my business card. Hi, here's my business card. Yeah. No. Yeah. So come along and find out why we do not take business cards to a networking event. There you go. There's a one for you. And with that, we are out of here. We'll be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Until then, have a super fantastic